So March of this year, I had a weird incident. So I had actually gone to the ENT for an issue I was having with like my throat and my ear. It was like something really weird going on. And the primary care physician that I talked to recommended that I go to an ENT because there were some concerns he had that I might have like maybe a mass or something else going on. So coincidentally, I'd gone to an ENT. I started my period that day. As I remember, that was a rough morning. I was in pain in like many different levels. I was already a bad period, I could tell. And I remember I had also forgotten to bring pads with me, so that was annoying. But I basically had to go into DC because I live in Maryland, but it's like right outside DC. I had to go to DC for my appointment, and I stopped to get food on the way back. So I started eating that food. It's a place that I've gone to literally since like undergrad. It is one of my favorite little spots like by my school. So I went there, I picked up food, took it home, and I ate it when I got home. And about halfway through me eating it, I started to have like a lot of like cramps and stuff. And I'm really thinking it's just my period at that point. But it started exponentially getting worse until it felt like proper like GI distress. Like it wasn't just cramps. It was like my stomach was bubbling, cramping, hurting. And it got to the point where I literally like laid down for a second. I was like, oh my God, like I'm getting properly sick. Then I went to the toilet and I had like diarrhea, and it was like to the point where it's like I'm still having to push it out, but it was like liquid. And I had like about 4 of those moments of just like diarrhea moments. And I'm like, dang, is this food like bothering me? Like what the heck is going on? And then I get to the point where that pain level is starting to get up there. Like it's starting to get again to that like 8 out of 10 kind of mark. It didn't feel like it did in December though. So that's the thing. Like it didn't have that same feeling, but it was that same intensity. Like something was so familiar about it. Like it's almost like those two scenarios were similar, but there were major differences because I had that like stomach and GI stuff going on. So it was still like significantly different than from what I had before. So at this point, again, I'm calling somebody on FaceTime because I'm like, oh my God, I'm like literally, I don't know what's gonna happen. I started getting to the point where I couldn't walk around, I couldn't stand up, I couldn't move. I was like moaning literally in pain. And I live in a house and I had 2 housemates upstairs. Well, one was gone. So I had one housemate that was upstairs. But basically I was just going through it. When my pain absolutely got the worst, I mean, it got so bad because you guys got to think, I'm on my period, I'm having diarrhea. I started throwing up. I threw up like 4 or 5 times. And at this point, I'm thinking food poisoning. Absolutely, I'm thinking food poisoning. The problem was that I was also on my period. So this sounds gross, but I mean, I have projectile fluids coming from all orifices. So I'm like literally, I tried to lay in the shower. It was that bad. It's kind of sad, guys. Like I was so like, I didn't want to be nasty. And it's like, I didn't want to lay in my bed. I didn't know what to do because I'm literally having diarrhea. I'm on my period. At this point, I'm so much pain. I can't even change my pad. I'm throwing up. So I literally tried to lay in the shower. I was like, if anything, worst case scenario, I'll just lay here. And if I like black out or if I go to sleep or something like that, I'll literally just lay in the shower. And then I can wake up and like get clean and just pretend like it never happened. But I literally couldn't do that because the shower was hard and everything hurt. Any side I tried to lay on, laying straight, curling up, I mean, it was bad to the point where I remember I was like on FaceTime and I was like moaning, like, help me, like, help me. And my hard-headed self, I still didn't want to go to the ER because at that point, again, I don't have military insurance anymore. I'm using my school insurance and it costs $300 to go to the emergency department. And I was thinking, if I just have food poisoning, when I go to the emergency department, so for food poisoning, they pretty much can't do anything for you. There are rare instances where they might give you antibiotics for food poisoning, but more than likely, they're going to give you an IV of saline. They might give you anti-nausea, anti-inflammatory medication, and then you're going to be there for many hours, and then you're going to go home. That is the course for food poisoning in the ER. So I did not want to spend $300 for some salt water. Like, it just was not going to happen. So I was just like, I'll tough it out. This is food poisoning. Like, food poisoning cannot be that bad. Like, but I genuinely was immobile. I was genuinely in the worst pain I have ever felt in my life, even more than the pain where I was blacking out. I just so happened to not black out this time. Literally worst pain of my life. And I was just thinking, like, this cannot be food poisoning. Like, what the heck? But I'm thinking, obviously it is, because I had diarrhea and vomiting. So long story short, it was so bad to the point where I literally couldn't even move. I couldn't even move to get into my bed. I couldn't move anywhere. I'm like laying on the floor, and it's like so painful even just to lay on the floor. So at some point, my pain goes to like just a 9 out of 10. And I literally drag myself from the bathroom to like my couch. I have like a mini kind of living room-ish area where like my computer desk is, and I have a couch and table and stuff. And I got myself to lay on the couch, and I found I can't remember what I did with my body, but it was some type of position where my pain went down to an 8 out of 10. And you have to think, even though an 8 out of 10 is excruciating pain, to go from literally pain that's beyond what you even know how to rank to an rankable 8 out of 10, it was such relief. I did not move. So basically, I had to get my roommate to help me. I had to get her to like bring down some groceries for me, to try to drink some Pedialyte. And about maybe 2 or 3 hours after just being frozen on the couch, like my family was literally like, we need to go, we're going to go pick you up. We need to call ambulance, everything. I was like, no, $300 saline. Like, I was literally doing everything in my power. I was like, no, if I don't move, I'm okay. It's only like an 8 out of 10 if I absolutely don't move. Like, you guys, I'm literally crazy. Like, but I'm a broke college student. I just did not find that appropriate. I'm like, literally, they're not gonna be able to do anything for me. Again, because I'm assuming it has to be food poisoning, even though something in me knew that food poisoning does not feel that way. What are you gonna do? I'm not thinking straight. I'm in pain. I'm thinking about money. Even though I'm in all that pain, I'm not really thinking about my long-term health. I'm literally just like, no, I'm broke. Like, don't take me there. So after a couple of hours, I get to the point where, like, I remember at one point I could actually move. Like, I was at like a 5 out of 10. I remember as soon as I felt better, I went to take a shower because I was like, I might drop. So I literally was on FaceTime. I was like, hey, make sure, like, if you hear a thump or something, call the ambulance if I don't respond, because that means I'm out. Like, so, but I took a shower and I was okay. And the pain slowly kind of started coming back again. So at this point, I was actually able to go lay down in my bed. So I was like, oh, thank God. But y'all, that night was literally the worst pain I've ever felt to date, hands down. I felt like I had been hit by a freaking truck. I felt like I was being just stabbed with, like, I don't know, imagine like a knife with a bunch of needles all around it. Like, it's needles on knives, like Edward Scissorhands, just like all inside of me. Plus, you know, that feeling when you have diarrhea, or that feeling when you are nauseous and throwing up, all that together. It was so bad. So I'm finally able to sleep. But that night I noticed that every time I moved, I would wake up because I would be in pain. So anyway, fast forward to the morning, and I am struggling. But what I notice is, like, when I'm laying down in the bed, I didn't feel anything. It's almost like you would think that I would be just fine. Just kind of like I was back in December of 2020 when like the next day I was completely fine. But what I would notice is, like, that was only if I was laying down and being still. As soon as I would turn my body to, like, try to get up, as soon as I would actually get up and move around, I was in a lot of pain, to the point where I was, like, still hunched over in pain. It was hard for me to walk. My pain wasn't coming from my pelvis, though. It was really coming from my abdomen. It was just like my lower abdomen. And it was really hard for me to walk. I'm literally hunching over, taking baby steps, excruciating pain when I'm moving. So that was during the morning. I think probably slept in like kind of late. So I'm imagining I probably woke up like at the latest at like a 9 o'clock in the morning or something like that. And by 1-ish p.m. or like 12 p.m., I started thinking like, let me press on my stomach and just see how I feel. Because, even as med students, when we're doing like a physical exam with a patient, we have to like do certain touches and pokes and like, to look for pain and to see what we can figure out. Those things are very hard to do on yourself, and they're hard to do on other people when you don't really know fully what you're doing. But we're getting there, we're learning. But, and just saying like, it's not something that we can just like do on each other and do on ourselves and like, oh yeah, we know what's going on. You know what I mean? But something I was just like, well, let me just try because I'm learning these things. And like, obviously I'm in severe pain. So let me see what happens. So I start pressing on my abdomen, and the responses that I feel in my body were like red flags to me. So they were like red flags as if like, say I knew what I was doing and I knew how to do it the right way. And I had a patient that came in and I was pressing their stomach and they had those signs. In my mind, I would think that they would need to go to the ER, because usually that means you have some type of like ruptured organ in your abdomen. You have some type of like massive infection, or like you have like leaking fluids, like something's going on in your abdomen that is considered a medical emergency, more than likely that you need to get fixed. Because basically what was happening is when I would press down on my stomach, the thing is I'm doing it slow, so I'm not going to have certain reflexes. Like if somebody else touches your stomach, like there's certain things like subconsciously that you're going to do. There's certain reflexes that you're going to have because somebody else is touching your stomach and they're kind of doing it quickly. Whereas like when you do something yourself, it's kind of like, I'm in pain. So it's like slow. I'm not getting a reflex. It would be like the difference between somebody doing like this in your face and somebody like going slow. Like you're not going to flinch if somebody goes slow. You'll flinch if somebody goes fast. So it's like that same concept. So I didn't get a reflex, but what I noticed is my stomach hurt more. Like when I pressed down on my stomach, it was okay. Of course it was tender, but it was okay. But when I would press deep and then I would let go really fast, and it was excruciating pain. That's something called rebound tenderness. And when people have that in their abdomen, it usually means like something is ruptured, infected, like it's a big deal. So at that point I was like, oh my God, are you kidding me? Do I still have to end up going to the stupid ER? Like literally, guys, that's what I'm thinking. I'm not thinking about, oh, what's wrong with me? Well, I was, but it's like, I was just like, no, I don't want to. But what I did was I did another virtual appointment with, this was, I think she was either internal medicine or family medicine. I can't remember. But basically I was talking to her and I was like, look, I'm a med student. I don't really know what I'm doing, but I just tested positive for rebound tenderness and I'm a little bit concerned. And she was like, well, that's really, really difficult to like test on yourself. But if you even think that that's the case, then you should go at least to the urgent care and let them check it out. And she was like, and also if you had food poisoning last night, the pain that you're in right now is not normal. So she was just saying that you wouldn't have pain when you're moving around and it wouldn't be difficult for you to walk and all of that. She was like, that's for food poisoning. That's not a thing. Like, yeah, you might be sore, but it's not going to be anything that you're feeling now. So she was like, basically just go to the urgent care. So I drive to the urgent care. Incredibly painful experience. Every single thing was painful. I literally put my my emergency lights on the whole time. And that whole thing, every bump felt like hell. And what sucks is I got out of my car, walked to a certain part of the hospital, and that was actually not the part I had to be in. So I literally had to get back in my car, go drive around the corner and park again to go to the urgent care part, because there was no way in the hospital like that connected them. So instead of being able to just like turn around and go through a wall, there was no door in the wall. So I literally had to go all the way around. So anyway, so I'm struggling. I'm literally limping around. Like clearly something is wrong with me. If somebody looks at me, they know I'm broken. So I'm like limping around. I go to this urgent care and I'm talking to, this ended up being a MP there. So she was a nurse practitioner that was there. And I'm talking to her, and the first thing that we notice, because I'm still in good spirits, because, you know, like, I'm like, ooh, you know, I'm like I'm a sociable person. So like, I'm in good spirits, but she goes to put, like, I'm in the, like patient chair, like, you know, you guys, when you guys go to the doctor and you're in the chair and they can kind of recline the chair like up or like lay you flat. Well, she needed to do an abdominal exam, and when you do an abdominal exam on a patient, they need to be laying completely flat, because you don't want them like holding up their, you know, weight. You don't want their organs to be in different places. You want them to be flat so you can do everything you need to do. So she went to put me flat, and just the fact that, you know, like when somebody reclines you, you kind of like automatically like tense your muscles, because you're not like just gonna like fall back, you know, you kind of like hold yourself up a little bit so you can go down with it. I did that, and the pain was so bad that I literally almost jumped off the table, and whatever I had in my hand, I actually ended up throwing it. I don't know if it was my phone or maybe it was a water bottle, but I ended up throwing whatever was in my hand, and I literally yelped. I can't remember. I'm trying to think of what sound I made, but I was basically like, ah! And I like threw whatever I had in my hand. And she was like, that's not normal. And I didn't even expect it. I shocked myself. Like, I did not expect to react that way. And she was like, okay. She was like, I'm still going to do the abdominal exam on you, but that already tells me you need to go to the ER, because that is not normal. And so she lays me down and she starts doing the tests. And surely enough, I had positive rebound tenderness and I had positive guarding. Guarding was the reflex thing that I was talking about. And it's literally basically where somebody tries to push into your abdomen and your muscles tense up without you even paying attention. You could be looking at something else, thinking about something else, and your abdomen, just to protect itself, literally like tenses up. So I had both guarding and rebound tenderness. And she was like, you know what? Because we were talking about why I didn't go to the ER, and I told her because money and blah 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 blah. And at first it was kind of like a joke, but then when she actually like saw that I had such bad symptoms, she was like, you know, I know you're talking about money. She was like, if you promise me that you will not go home, but you will go to the ER, I will not bill you for this visit. She literally, I mean, it was so sweet. I don't want to cry, but it was just so nice of her to do that, because I just imagine, like, even me being a student, I have like better resources. Like, there's some people out here, because I have insurance, there's some people out here that do not have the resources so to think that somebody would be kind enough to take in the fact that I'm like a student and that I'm having pain, and say, she literally told me, she was like, I won't bill you. I'll say that I'll just mark it as patient didn't want to be seen. And I just thought that was so kind, because it's like, this is her time, you know, it's her money. It's that's just not the way it's supposed to work. And she did that for me. And she was like, but you have to promise me you'll go to the ER and I will not bill you for this visit. And we agreed. And she didn't bill me for that visit. She marked me as that I didn't want to be seen. And I went straight to the ER, another painful drive. But I went straight to the ER, and that was a whole scenario. My phone was dead. The wait was long, because this was a Friday. This was a Friday afternoon. So ER was jumping. So basically at this point, I'm at the ER, still don't know what's going on. I'm on my period, did not bring a pad with me again, because I'm not thinking I'm going to have all these, you know, I just knew I was going to go to the urgent care and not actually be rebounding and guarding. I just knew it, but wrong. So, I didn't have anything with me, but I was able, of course, I'm at a hospital, so I was able to get some stuff from the doctors, but they were like the big maternity ones. But I was almost grateful for that, because I was able to just use the same pad all day, because I literally, or from afternoon to evening anyway, because I ended up being in so much pain that whole time, and the waiting around and the nerves, just like, I was just happy to have on a diaper for real. But basically, yeah, so I had a long wait. I finally got to see the doctor, and actually it was another MP. So it was another nurse practitioner, and when I finally got back there, they tested my urine, and they got all my labs and stuff like that. All my labs were fine. My urine was fine, apart from of course it did show that there was blood and stuff, but that was from my period. I let them know I was on my period, so that was pretty much normal. So basically she goes to do the abdominal exam on me as well. And she starts feeling around. And of course, I'm still having the rebound tenderness. I'm still having the guarding, but she's noticing that it's on the left lower side primarily. It was on my left side, still on my right side. But then she was asking me, and then when she went back and forth, it was very clear that most of it was on my left side. And by that time, I wasn't in as much pain as I had been before. I was definitely still in a lot of pain, but I guess maybe just, I don't know if I got more tolerant to it or whatever the case may be, or if maybe just by that time so many hours had gone by that it felt a little bit better. But it was definitely my left lower side that was causing most of the issue. So at that point, she was like, well, you just earned yourself an abdominal CT. And she was like, and you're going to have to drink contrast with it. And she also knew I was a med student, because she said something when I was describing to her what was going on with my body. She was like, are you in medicine? Because you're using all the right words. And I was like, well, I'm a med student, but I'm not in medicine. She's like, oh, well, that's why. She was just like, yeah, it just seemed like you didn't have any real like questions like about what does this mean? What does that mean? It was more so like I was able to easily understand her. And I guess the way I was describing like what my symptoms were and stuff, that's why she asked me. So it had come up. So she knew I knew what it meant when I had to drink contrast. And contrast is literally like, think of it as just a dye. You're drinking a dye that goes into your body so they can see everything. Like it helps them see all your organs and your blood vessels and everything like that. But it's notoriously disgusting to drink. Like it tastes like a chemical. It tastes like you're drinking dye. Imagine how hair dye smells and drink it. Like that's what it is. So I did have to do that scan. So it's basically where, again, I'm drinking that liquid and they can actually see all of my organs almost like kind of 3D. That's what a CT scan essentially does. So I drink the liquid, and when they do the imaging, they also put contrast in your IV so that it can actually get in your blood too. Because if you drink it, that's not going to get into like your blood vessels. It's going to go through your digestive system. So to see your actual blood vessels, to make sure you don't have anything crazy going on with your like arteries or veins, they put it in your IV. So basically they do that. It takes forever. At this point, I'm in the ER for 9 hours, and they finally call me back because they have my results. And she tells me, she was like, okay, the good news is there's nothing wrong with your colon. And we went through some other problems, because when you have issues with your left lower side, there are specific things you're looking for. She was like, everything looks great. Everything that I would have been worried about looks great. And additionally to that, all the rest of your abdomen looks great. Your right side looks great. Your upper abdomen, great. Everything's great. And she said the one thing that the radiologist who looked at the scan saw was a complex cystic structure on your left ovary that's really, really large. And she said, and it looks like there may be some cysts on your right side too. And I was like, oh, well, cyst isn't like super surprising, granted, because like my history, right? So like cyst isn't super surprising, but like it's large. And she was like, the left side, she was like, yeah, I think we need to do an ultrasound, because we just can't see it very well with an abdominal CT, because that's a different part of your body. So she was like, but if we put in an ultrasound for you, you'll probably be here for a few more hours. And you guys got to think, at this time, that night before, I threw up everything in my body. I had drank like a half a thing of Pedialyte. I had no food. I had no water with me. I had no way of communicating with anybody because my phone was dead. And at this point, I am starving. I'm in pain. I'm weak. I mean, I'm literally running on nothing, because, that meal, coincidentally, that I threw up was actually the only thing that I had attempted to eat that day too, because I was so busy with trying to get to my appointments and everything. So I basically ended up, since I threw it all up, I ended up not eating anything the day before either. So I'm hurting. At this point, it was like 30 something hours since I had eaten. And I was super dehydrated, apart from like, they did give me some IV, thank God. I was like literally like pretending as if I was drinking the IV, because I knew I was so dehydrated. But at that point, I'm so out of it. And I even asked her, knowing good and well I need to do an ultrasound, I even asked her, I was just like, what do you think? And she looked at me and she was sympathetic because she knows how I was feeling, but she also knows I know better. So she was like, yeah, I think we know that you need to get the ultrasound because we just need to make sure that there's nothing else going on. And that's where all your pain is coming from, because your abdomen is fine and you have this severe pain. And, we need to figure out what this thing is. So of course I waited there, and it took, I think it was 2 or 3 hours before I actually got even back there to get the ultrasound. And once I finally got to that floor of the hospital, I was there for like forever. All right. So my phone died like probably like an hour or two ago. But what was I talking about? So that was like right before the ultrasound. So, okay. So before the ultrasound, one thing that I wanted to say too is, I'm going to put it up on the screen as well, but something really important on my abdominal CT that I don't know if somehow I missed it, or maybe like I did a quick Google. Oh, I need to turn this fan off. I'll be back. Okay, fan is off because I did not want that to be really loud in the background. But on my abdominal CT results, it says the NP had told me like I also seem like I might have some cysts on my right side, and on the abdominal CT it said hydrosalpinx or multiple cystic structures, and because it said it was like a tubular filled cyst. And that's important because, and this is something that would come back to really like essentially like freak me out later on in my journey, and when I actually went to go see my actual surgeon. And basically, I don't know if I like Googled hydrosalpinx that day. I didn't really think anything of it. I know like salpinx basically means your fallopian tube. So hydrosalpinx, I was like, oh, maybe there's just like fluid in my fallopian tube. Like it did not register at all. So just like keep that in mind when I talk about my pre-surgery journey and when I actually went to go talk to my surgeon, because I almost had a meltdown over that information later on. But basically like a hydrosalpinx is where your fallopian tube is filled with fluid, and the reasons why could be varied depending on like just what you have going on. But typically the only option to remove that or to fix the problem is to take that fallopian tube out. At this time in the process, I have no idea about this. The hydrosalpinx thing has just like, shoop, shoop. It's not even in my thought process. All I'm thinking about is these endometriomas, or at that time, the endometrioma and endometriosis. That's all I'm thinking about. So, going to get the ultrasound. So I had to wait like 2-3 hours before I finally went up to the department of the ultrasound, which is funny because they get to, roll me around in the bed. So I was in the radiology department, and even I was waiting up there for like forever. I finally get back there, and as normal, they do an abdominal ultrasound and a transvaginal ultrasound while I'm on the second day of my period, which is really interesting because nothing's happening in your actual vagina on your period. It's literally your uterus and your womb. But like my vaginal tissue was also really sore. So like when they're doing the like wand and moving it around, maybe it's not just my actual canal. Maybe it's like because it's pushing structures that are like beyond that or something. But it was actually quite like tender. And so basically, she looked around. She was very, very like this ultrasound tech, she was very like neutral, not a negative demeanor, but she was like as flatline as you can possibly get. And I remember before I even went back there to her, she saw me like walking up and down the hallway of the department, and she was like, are you good? Can I help you? Kind of like making sure I'm not a crazy, I guess. And I was like, yeah, I've just been here for like 9-10 hours, and I'm just like walking around to like, because I'm getting antsy. So I'm just like walking around to, like blow off steam or whatever. And she's just like, okay. So that was like her first interaction with me. And it's just crazy because when I was in the room, I was like, still chatty because I'm exhausted. I'm in pain. I'm starving. And like, sometimes when I'm in that type of situation, like I'm trying to like keep a light-hearted spirit going on. So basically, I'm chatting with her and she's kind of just like, not really like responsive. And what's really weird is by the end of her looking at everything, I just asked her, I was like, so how's it looking to you? And she was like, I think we should just wait until the doctor interprets the images. And then I was like, oh, that made me feel kind of weird, because I was like, Shorty knows something. She knows something. And what's weird is like, I couldn't see the screen. Like it wasn't like directly where I could see it. It was kind of like, basically like kind of like this. So the screen is pointing that way. But I do remember looking at the screen and seeing not seeing like my ovary. Now, she could have been pointing anywhere, right? So she could have been looking at my uterus. She could have been looking at like some other part of my pelvic wall or moving around. But I do remember on one, like when she was moving, sometimes it's hard to tell where they point, because you would think it'd be really obvious, but it's not, because like very small movements make a big difference in the image. But I did know as she was moving around, I did see like one ovary, or because I could see the different little dots all around. But then I noticed like when she was kind of pointing it towards one way and I kind of felt it, I could see it. And then when she moved around, I like basically never saw like another ovary, but I wasn't thinking anything of it. Like I literally know that in hindsight, because I'm detail oriented and I'm very visual. And I just, in hindsight now know that, oh, my other ovary wasn't able to be seen. But like, I do remember kind of looking and I saw her kind of see one ovary and then move around, and I just never saw anything after that again. But I'm not thinking of anything. I don't know what's going on. At this point, I'm not thinking that I have some massive cysts on my ovary. I'm thinking like I might just have normal cysts and maybe my left is just causing me more issues now. Like literally that's what I'm thinking. So it was just really weird, because after that moment, she was suddenly really, really nice to me. Not to say she was mean before, but she was just like super neutral. And after that, she was suddenly like so nice to me. Like she was just like making sure she was asking me, did I need blankets? And then she literally checked on me twice, because I was in the hallway and I was waiting for a while. And she literally checked on me twice. She said, oh, I'll call them again to make sure that they're on their way, like the people that transport you throughout the hospital. She was like, do you need an extra pair of socks? Like, I was just like, wow, like, I don't know where that came from. So that did kind of like, I don't know if it was just in my head, but it did kind of make me feel like, is there something I need to like know? Or maybe it's just she got to know me, because I did help her clean up afterwards, which I didn't need to, but like, you know, she was doing stuff on the computer and I sat up and I like put my bloody stuff in the hazardous waste and I put my clean stuff in the regular stuff, and you know, like, and I think she acknowledged that. She was like, oh, thank you for your help. So I'm not sure if it was like that or what, but it was just an interesting interaction. So finally, the transport guy, the same guy that brought me up, was the same guy that took me down. And, you know, we were having fun, because I was like, this is the best part of the ER visit right here, just rolling around the hospital. So he picked me back up and took me back down to the actual emergency department. And so I'm laying there, and probably about 45 minutes later, my NP comes back. And she's like, okay. So I just wanted to say, if you've watched this portion of my story and my journey, thank you so much, so much. And if you are also finding out that you have endo, or you think that you may have endo, definitely give a comment. Like, let me know. I would love to talk to some of you ladies about some of the struggles you've had, or even the successes you've had, different things that you've learned about your journey. I would just love for you guys to share. If you liked this video, please like it and support me, because I have no idea like how people are even gonna ever see this video. So like, please like the video if you found it helpful, inspirational, informative, or maybe you just liked hearing me talk. I would love that. And of course, subscribe, because I'm gonna continue to post videos. I'm going to continue to post about like my actual post-op experience live with my vlog. Well, it was live at the time with my vlog. So, yeah, just reach out. feel free to interact with me. I would absolutely love that. And then stay tuned for the next part of the endometriosis story.